Welcome back to another episode of Make It Stick. You may be wondering if what am I doing at this point? If you've been watching, there's nobody currently watching this, but in the future, if you're watching this, you may be wondering what I'm doing. Maybe you have a glimpse of what I'm doing. Maybe not. But what I am doing, I believe, is possibly the deepest dive of Make It Stick that exists on the internet. And that's pretty cool to think because I never even put those words to it till right now. But when I think about it, I am doing so much active recall, so much review, so much elaboration, and reading everything in this book and writing notes and using SQR 3R. The review part's the hard part, is where to review and how often, and we're kind of going with the flow, but it is effortful. I'll tell you that. It is daunting. But we'll keep moving. And so today, I'll start off with Anki before I even get back into what I was doing yesterday. Because I know I've got some fat flashcards. Okay, what do we got? My strategy for Anki is to, once I identify a main theme of the book or a big concept, I'll try to make a flashcard on it. So the first Anki card I've got right now is, how do the authors define learning and make it stick? So the authors define learning as being able to take in information, synthesize it, integrate it, remember it. So you basically download, take in information, keep it, store it, and then be able to use it creatively in future novel situations. Not just be able to know it, but be able to use it, be able to integrate it into your worldview and see the world differently and solve problems creatively with this new information that you've acquired. Cool. So that's good. What is the central argument of Make It Stick? Central argument, potentially what I found is that learning is an acquired skill, and that learning is acquired skill, and that the most intuitive ways to learn are often not the most productive, and they're often actually pretty ineffective learning techniques. Okay. Or, yeah, the central argument is that the most effective techniques are counterintuitive. So actually, I'm gonna say that one was kind of hard because I kind of got it, but I kind of inverted it. So we'll see that one again tomorrow. And then, what are the 14 claims the authors make and make it stick? Now, this is a fat ass motherfucker one. Excuse my language there. This is a fat one. All right. All right. Well, I guess there's no way to get around it. Let's try it. Number one, there's a direct relationship between effort and learning. The more effort, the deeper and the more effective the learning. We as people are often poor judges of when we're learning and when we're not learning. When we think we're learning and it's easy and it feels easy, that's usually when we're actually not learning that much. And when it feels difficult and it feels like we're not making progress, that's actually when we're counterintuitively, paradoxically, potentially learning the most. 3 is that rereading and mass practice of a skill are by far among the most popular study techniques and approaches across all domains, yet they are some of the least effective techniques according to evidence. Now, the mass practice one I have a caveat for personally. I have a personal caveat for motor skills, but we're going to ignore that for now. This is not about me. This is about the claims the authors make. 4 is that I believe retrieval practice is more effective than rereading and reviewing notes. Spacing and interleaving retrieval practice makes it feel more difficult, but actually is and that's actually what leads it to being more effective, longer lasting memories, deeper learning, etc. So better learning. Okay, 5. Number 6, this is one I forgot yesterday. Number 6 is going to be skip number 6 for now. Number 7 is that learning styles, like this idea that we have preferred learning styles, and that if you just learn from your preferred learning style, you're going to learn more, is not supported by science, and actually, like, it's the opposite. If you just stick with one learning style or learning resource, such as an auditory file or a visual video or like a verbal book, it's actually much less effective than using multiple different style resources. 8. No. Maybe 6. Let's just say 6 was basically like the ability to discriminate between what makes two things different, like the underlying principles that make one thing it and the other thing not it, and two different things, like the underlying differences. That ability to discriminate between closely related things is a skill that can be trained through varied and interleaved practice, and is a skill that leads to better problem solving and creative thinking and opportunity recognition in novel situations when they're kind of like related to the things you've been able to discriminate, like the field you've studied, discriminated, very practiced, and early practice. Okay. And into novel situations, when you're presented with a new thing, you're more able to discriminate, well, what makes this different and new and not like the other things, and etc. Say that 8 is all learning requires previous learning. Okay. Now we're getting in there. 10 or 9. We're on 9. 9 is like the big picture you have, like the more knowledge you have, the easier and faster and more effective new information is put into that big picture. There's more things to connect to, and so learning is more efficient and better in general. So, like, for example, the more history you know, the more history information that you intake, the more it will stick, because you'll have more places for it to stick and understand, and how it fits into the bigger picture. 10 is kind of closely related to this, where it's like underlying principles again. Mental models. Yeah, mental models and underlying principles. So mastery involves being able to take the big ideas and principles from a resource, develop a mental model from it, and then connect that mental model to other mental models. Okay, I'm now realizing what I forgot. This might have been 6. This might have been 6 or 8, but we'll say it's 11. Number 11. All right, we got cement drilling in the outside. I'm trying to recall these. It's difficult. This is a good thing. We're all susceptible to illusions of our abilities, whether it's in the positive or negative direction, meaning that we all think that at times we have more abilities or less abilities than we inflate or deflate our abilities on a given subject or skill, and that testing is actually a great way to calibrate and accurately assess our skills and abilities. Now we're missing 3. There's going to be 3 more that are here. What could I be missing? What could I be missing? Okay. The last one is we can get smarter. That's basically it, right? We can get smarter. There's another part too, but that's the main idea. We can get smarter we can develop our abilities. We can get smarter. Okay. There's 2 more now. What am I missing? Testing, we've talked about. Dang it, we've talked about a lot. We've talked about testing. We've talked about interleaved practice and spaced repetitions. Varied practice. Learning is misunderstood. The mental model one, the testing, the previous learning to learn new things. Dang it, dude. Dang it, dude. We just spent so much fucking time and I can't even get this one. Alright, what am I missing? The last one was learning changes the brain and we can get smarter. That was the 2-part. Okay, key principles connecting. Okay, those are 12 and 13 is the mental model and picture ones. Dang it, it's the video title yesterday. There's no known limit to how much we can learn if we use elaboration. Okay? That was 11. Previous knowledge. Illusions of knowing is 9. Previous knowledge is 8. Interleaved in very practice is 8. 10, I mean, is prior knowledge. Learning style is 7. What did I miss? I miss this one every time. 6. 6 is, and I literally think of this all the time when I'm playing guitar. Thought about it like daily, okay? 6, so what did I miss? 6 is, I have it already typed in here. I didn't need to look there. Oh, man. Attempting to solve a problem before being taught it leads to deeper learning when you're taught it, okay? That's 6. And then there's no known limit to how much we can learn if we use elaboration. I believe that's 11. Okay, that was. So I don't even care about the order, but the order kind of helps me keep track of them. So that's why I kind of try to keep them in order. But everything else was fine. I missed 2, so we'll see that again tomorrow. Spend another 10 minutes talking about it tomorrow. What did we do yesterday, dude? What did we do yesterday? We were reading something. We were reading. Did we even read yesterday? Did I even get there? I think I read a couple paragraphs. We read potentially the intro to empirical evidence and versus theory lore. No, that was the other day. What did we read yesterday? We read maybe 1 paragraph yesterday. That's it. It was the beginning of People Misunderstand Learning. Did I get into it? Dang, I don't know. I don't even feel the pain no more. Yeah, I only read 1 paragraph yesterday. Basically, wow, there was a lot in there that I don't even remember. I think one of the big things that we learned is that, or that I read, was about like, we have been using a lot of ineffective techniques as learners and teachers, that we often think that learning is better when it's fast and easy, but that's not so. I believe that's what it was. Oh, no. Yes, that might have been in there, but the idea was like that we have an idea that if you just get exposure, it was about exposure. If we get exposed to enough things enough times, it's just going to be burned into memory eventually, and that's just not the truth. Okay, the other thing I was saying is better. Yep. Yep, talks about mass practice and how it like feels efficient, but it's not. The progress often melts away quickly. Oh. All right. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually read a couple pages to make some progress here, and I'm gonna take notes in the margins, and then I'm gonna active recall, and we'll call a day. Let's do it. All right. This is read about 1.5 pages. Yep, 1.5 pages a day keeps the doctor away. Now let's elaborate. So basically the first paragraph I read was about rereading, and it's like, it's alarming. Rereading is alarming because it's by far the most popular method of studying something is rereading. That's the most popular use of study time. Yet there's 3 strikes against rereading. One, first of all, it's really time consuming. That's a strike. This is really time consuming too. So I don't know if that's anyway, it wouldn't be a strike alone, I don't think, unless it didn't have this other 2, which it doesn't lead to durable memories. Right? If you reread something and you don't do anything about it, that's gonna be so gone so fast, and you'll just be like, I liked it or I didn't like it. That's all you're gonna have left. Liked it. It was good. Or I don't like it. It wasn't good. That's all you're gonna be able to recall after a couple days if you don't do anything with that rereading knowledge. And then three, it leads to illusions of knowing. Like when you're reading it, you become more familiar with it. You're like, I know this stuff, and then you get tested on it. Boom, failed. Like exposure and familiarity is not the same thing as learning. Not at all. Okay, all right. That's the three strikes against rereading, and then it was basically like study time. Amount of time studied does not equate to mastery, which is very nice to hear. It's actually very freeing. You don't need to have 10,000 hours to become a master. Like it's how you use those hours. Okay. And yeah, this stuff is really time consuming. So maybe this is very ineffective, but to me, I think I'm digging super deep into my neural pathways and I'm building a really deep mental model that I keep spitting on more to every day through elaboration. Hopefully, maybe not. Maybe I'm literally just elaborating and then I don't review that elaboration and then it's gone the next day. That would be really tough, but there's only one way to find out if that's the case or not, and that's by doing stuff like this. And then being like, yeah, that was effective or it wasn't effective. Okay. And then after rereading, it basically gets into a story of like, before that, it's like, it's also concerning how much of like instruction, like schooling and programs is based on like mere exposure, just like fire hose method is what they call it. They just PowerPoint, slide, read all this stuff, watch these videos, this and that, just like throw you tons of, just listen to me lecture over and over again, like tons of words, way too much information. And they think that just exposure is going to burn it into memory. And it's just like, nope, very like, it's much like rereading. Very time consuming, doesn't lead to durable memories. And, what's the last one? It doesn't lead to durable memories, and then it also leads to like this illusion of knowing, like you know it because you're familiar with it, but you don't know it. Okay. This is all part of people misunderstand learning. Okay. Then it gets into a story of like this pilot, again, the same pilot from earlier in this book, where he had to go to like a 18-day training, 10 hours a day, 180 hours for this new plane he wanted to fly, basically. And the first 7 days were spent in the classroom, just like boom, 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 10 hours a day of classroom throwing information at you. And he's like, it's going through, information's coming in and out. And then basically it was like highlighting exposure. But then it said like, then something interesting happened. And the instructor asked, like, has anyone had this happen to them? Has anyone had the fuel bypass light come on or something along those lines? And he's like, yep. And he's like, what happened? And he's like 30,000 feet up in the air, and both of his engines are about to go out because he didn't get antifreeze into his fuel, and now his fuel is freezing up 30,000 feet in the air. And then the story is like, or the pilot that the story's about, it's like, and that changed. Like after that, I was like, that schematic they were showing me, that information was getting like burned into my brain because it was so potentially impactful for him. Like it could be life or death for him. Like he needs to learn this. So basically a big point of this story was to illustrate that learning is more effective when it's connected and has meaning in your life. And you just think about school all the time. I'm sure I asked this question a lot as a kid and I heard it all the time. It's like, when are we going to actually use this information? Like this is useless. So they, as children, like if you can't see how this connects to your life in any way, literally 0 ways, you can't even think of anything, you're not going to learn that information. Like you might get a good grade if you just want to get a good grade, or you might get a bad grade, but either way, you're not going to learn that information in the way that the authors are describing learning, which is download the information, store it, it doesn't go away, and then you can use it creatively to problem solve. You'd probably be surprised how many people, including myself, like if we took like middle school exams, middle school math exams, middle school like English, like social sciences, history exams, we'd probably do pretty poorly. Maybe, I spent a lot of time studying the ACT over years, and so maybe not for me. I've probably mastered a lot of that stuff, but that's not even what I'm like trying to say. Like even for me, having gone over that stuff many more times over my life, I don't know if I could say I'm at the point where I've taken history that I learned in seventh grade and math that I learned in eighth grade and all the stuff I learned in middle school and elementary school and high school and putting it in my brain. It's all stored there. Not only is it stored there where I can get a good grade, it's like stored there where when I'm solving problems and I'm taking on new opportunities and I'm creating stuff, music, videos, businesses, I'm using this information from that I learned. Hopefully like it's in my intuition because it got stored deep enough, but it's very possible that it never did. So learning, man, it's a great time. It's a great time when you really start to understand that it is misunderstood, even by like me. You know, when you start getting into learning science, you feel like, wow, this is crazy. Then you learn a few things and you're like, I know like what I'm talking about. But that's only the Dunning-Kruger effect. And then you start like learning more and more and you're like, whoa. It's like all paradoxical and counterintuitive, and there isn't like nothing is clear cut except for like rereading seems pretty clear cut. It seems very like rereading is like eating processed food. It's like we don't know everything about health. It's very hard, but generally, you know, if you eat less processed food, you're going to be healthier. And I think it's the same with learning. Generally, if you reread less and you substitute that rereading for something more effective, like what I'm doing here is like, hopefully this is more effective because it takes a long time. So hopefully it's not like non-effective or I'm spending too much time. But I'm just keep elaborating. And hopefully the idea is like there's this area in my brain that is now being developed. And every time I make a video on Make It Stick, this area of the brain gets lit up and new connections are being formed. And then when I go to sleep, it grows. And it grows and it grows and grows and grows and grows. And it keeps getting bigger and more complex and more efficient. It gets interstates and hyper efficient traveling and no traffic and very, very clean and seamless. That's the hope. But yeah, that's just like, that's all somewhat like an analogy, but kind of literal too. Anyways, that's where I'm going to end Make It Stick today. All right. Talk to you guys later.